We're making blender salsa today. It's quick, it's easy, healthy, kid-friendly. Everybody loves it, always a hit. And what I like about it the most is I can stock my pantry with regular ingredients and only have to really focus on getting one fresh thing every time I want to make it. The rest of it stuff I already keep in stock. I'm Susie Felton. Welcome to Mrs. Montana Rancher, where I'm making my go-to blender salsa today. And I make this all the time. It's not only one of my favorite things coming into spring, but when I'm most likely to make it is in the middle of a snowstorm up here in Montana. It just makes me be able to pretend that I'm somewhere warm. And I almost always stock 99% of this recipe all the time, basic ingredients, and I only have one thing to grab at the grocery store if I kind of feel in the mood for some salsa. So let's get started today. First things first, you need a pretty good blender. You can make this. This is my high-powered go-to-it blender. This is what I like to make it in. You can use a food processor, but I'm going to give you a cautionary tale. Before I got my good blender, I used a food processor. It turned out the same, but I flooded the food processor. And so if you're going to use your food processor, it works just fine, but cut the recipe in half and do it either in 2 small batches to combine after you're done in the food processor, or just cut it in half, because this makes a load of salsa. And it is, I mean, it's a hit every time. My kids will sit down with this salsa and eat fresh vegetables in the form of salsa and dip things into it, use it on all their food. Even the ranch crew will eat it, although I have to watch the heat up here in Montana. These guys aren't necessarily accustomed to spicy food. It's really quick and easy. So I have my go-to high-speed blender. You can use a regular blender, and you can certainly use your food processor. And we're going to start with an onion. Now, everything in this recipe, what I love about it is that you can tailor it to your taste. So I usually cut up an onion and throw the whole onion in there. If it's too much onion, start with a quarter or a half of an onion and work up from there. Really, all of these things, it's wonderful to do a throw together recipe because you can tailor it to the taste of you and your family, and that's certainly with this blender salsa how it works. So I'm going to put a roughly chopped up onion into my blender. Now, like I said, you can do a half an onion if you think that sounds like a lot, or even more onion if you like onions. And then cilantro. This is my one fresh ingredient that I always have to grab, because cilantro is my one ingredient that I don't always stock because you have to use it pretty quick. So I've rough chopped a whole thing of cilantro, just the bundle that you buy at the grocery store. I didn't worry about getting it really small because I'm using my high-speed blender. If you're using a regular blender, you might concentrate on getting everything in pretty small pieces before you get it in the blender. But this is rough because this blender, it will do anything. I tell you, I love this thing. So we put cilantro in there, and then I do the juice of 3 limes. That is also, again, to your taste and preferences. I've got my limes in half here, and I'm going to use my squeezer because I do a better job of getting all the juice into where it's supposed to go. And plus, my kids love to sit and use this thing, so I've really just made it a habit to use the little handy dandy juicer for my limes. And I'm doing 3 limes. Of course, this is a great throw together recipe, so you can really tailor it if you prefer more or less lime. So there's our limes. I juiced 3 limes into my blender. We'll put those aside. Now, even the kids can do this. The kids they are better at eating food that they help make, and so they can, I don't usually prepare this. I take it off the blender when the kids are doing it so they don't accidentally get their hands in there. But for the purpose of this, we'll keep it on the blender. And then we're going to add a few seasonings. Now, I like my salsa pretty salty. I really like the flavor of salt in this salsa, but you can salt it to your taste. You can start it anywhere from a 1/4 teaspoon on up. We tend to use this. I like it kind of salty. So, but if you're eating it on a chip, you get some salt from the chips. You got to kind of keep that in mind. If you're doing it on a recipe though, I like more salt. So I put some salt in there to taste. When I'm all done, I taste it. If I think it needs more salt, I add it then. Here's like a secret sauce ingredient, a 1/4 teaspoon of cumin, which is a pinch. So I love to make recipes like this where you just throw stuff in and you don't have to do exact measurements like you would if you were baking. And that certainly is this. We're gonna put quite a few tomatoes into this salsa, and if you add a little bit of sugar, a pinch of sugar, it'll help that acidity not be so in your face. And so this is just sugar, and I'm just gonna do a pinch. You can always add a little more if you think, once you get that first blend on it done, if you think it needs it. So here's the kicker. This recipe, why I love it so much, uses canned tomatoes. So I just stock them, I buy them on sale, I stock them in my pantry. And one of the things that I am really careful about on my canned food, and you guys know this is my soapbox issue, is where it comes from. So I'm really careful to buy my canned food that says grown in the USA or product of the USA, not just bottled or canned in the USA, because that means that they can bring in produce from outside the country and just put it in a new package or a new can, a new bottle, and call it USA. And so I don't like to do that. I am really careful about what I buy canned, because it can ship a long way when it's canned. And this particular line is USA, and so I like it. So you could do this part a couple different ways. In the summer, I'd like to grow my peppers, my jalapenos out in the garden, and I like to add them and then just do 3 cans, 3 regular size, 14.5-ounce cans of tomatoes. At the end of summer, I pick all of my peppers and I grill them and I get that char on them and I peel them and I cut them up in little pieces and I freeze them with my food saver in little tiny packages. And so while those last, I still use 3 cans of regular tomatoes. You can use, it doesn't matter, whole, the small petite ones, because you're going to put them in the blender anyway. And I add the heat that way. But I am out. I just bought some tomatoes to get started planting. I don't have any peppers left in my freezer. And so I do 1 jalapeno, which I always add 1 jalapeno, but I buy 2 regular cans of tomatoes. And then I buy the other one, where's that? That is the green chilies. And so there's some green chilies in there. It adds some spice. The only thing that you'll find if you use the tomatoes that have the green chilies in them already, the flavor's great, but you can't control the heat. So if you're feeding a ranch crew like I am from Montana that is not used to a lot of hot food, sometimes it'll get a little spicy on you. So I've kind of got that zeroed in up here, is I'll do 2 cans of regular tomatoes and 1 can with the chilies. And then I add 1 jalapeno in addition to that, all chopped up. So we'll put the jalapeno in there now. If I was doing this in the summer and I had fresh produce or access to fresh produce from like a farmer's market, I would do 3 cans of regular tomatoes and then add all of my spice from fresh produce. In my case, I pick them all at the end of the year. I roast them on the grill, I peel them, I chop them, I freeze them, and I add them from the freezer through the year, and that works too. But I'm out. I got to buy everything right now, and so I opted to do 2 cans of regular tomatoes and 1 can with chilies. But you can tailor those. If you don't like spicy food at all, you could just do 1 jalapeno that is, I don't put the seeds or the veins in there. I just do the outside, and then 3 cans of regular tomatoes. And that's something that you just kind of have to try and see where your spice level is. Remember, you can always make things more spicy if you get everything blended and it's not spicy enough, but it's really hard to take the heat out. If you get too much heat in there, you can only add so many tomatoes and then you've reached the capacity of your blender. So I'm going to add 3 cans. 2 of these are just regular plain old. These are petite diced, but I could have done whole tomatoes. I could have done any kind of diced tomato. It doesn't matter. And then 1 of those cans has the chilies in it, the green chilies in it, and it's pretty spicy just in and of itself. So that's all she wrote. That's everything in the blender. And because I have this high-speed blender, I can put everything in there at once and just blend it to get the salsa. So we're going to watch this. Now, I always keep a good hold of this because it can really get going as it blends. And so we're going to start. That's going to be loud once we do that. Oops, I'm doing the wrong one. I'm backwards with you guys. And I'm just going to let my blender start doing the work. It does take a while, and it's going to grab all that, but I do hold on to it because there's a lot in there, and I didn't chop it very fine. And once I get it going, get things down to a pretty small level, I can pull it off, and I've got salsa in here ready to go. So, and I'm going to show you guys this, and I've done this so much, I know exactly how we like it. spice level. In the summer, if I'm using jalapenos and stuff out of the garden or different kinds of peppers, I taste as I go to see how hot I want to get it. But since I've been out of those, I use 1 can with the chilies and 2 regular cans of tomatoes, and then 1 jalapeno that I take all the seeds and the veins out. And that gets us where we need to be. I always taste it at this point, and if I think it needs more salt, then I put some more salt in it. So let's give it a taste. I'm telling you, you guys try this. This is, I mean, everybody just goes for this salsa, and it's so easy because really I stock everything in this recipe in my kitchen except the cilantro. I think these guys, this one's a little spicy. I'm gonna add a little more salt and give it one more blend because the ranch guys, when they come in, they will take after this salsa. And they like it salty. Sometimes more salty, but you know, that's to your taste. You can do it however much salt you prefer. I'll give it one more blend. And that's all she wrote. That's salsa ready to go. So I have a container that I put it in, and you could freeze some of this because this is a lot of salsa. This is a high capacity blender. And I'm gonna pour it in there so you guys can see it. I've got this down. I make this so much that I know exactly how much will fit in what bowl. I'll let you guys see it. It's just beautiful. It is full of vitamins and nutrients. The kids love this. The ranch crew loves this. We will top all kinds of food with this. This weekend, if we make tacos, we'll put it on there. We'll put it on fajitas. We eat it just with chips. I'll put it on fish, all kinds of things. Then if you like guacamole, here's a tip. So if you like guacamole, and you don't want to worry about your avocados turning brown once you cut them, you can make it with this salsa, just in serving sizes. So your salsa's done. This is everything that goes in guacamole except the avocado. So you can just take a couple avocados and cut them or smash them, however, if you prefer your guacamole chunky or smooth, into a bowl and add the salsa to those avocados, mix it up, and you have instant knock your socks off guacamole. And my kids love that too. We add that to everything. And it is a great way to add a healthy fat with the avocado to your food and to add a serving of vegetables, especially for kids. Actually, who am I kidding? For the ranch crew, they can use servings of vegetables too. And this is a great way to sneak those in. Everybody likes it. This will last several days in the fridge. You could freeze it. And so we just put that in here. I know it exactly that it fits in this bowl, and I cover it. And then it's just a grab and go thing from the fridge to add to meals all week long. If I get the guys in early and they're hungry, I'll throw this out on the table and they'll sit and eat it with chips while I'm getting lunch ready. If that's the case, the kids can come in and have a snack. They'll eat this. They'll even dip carrot sticks and stuff into the salsa in addition to chips. So it is just my go-to blender salsa. It's a blender salsa. It is kid friendly. It is ranch crew man friendly. It's my go-to. We've been making this once a week for months now. I'm notorious for making this when in the dead of winter in a snowstorm because it makes me feel and imagine that I'm in someplace warmer. But this week, with tacos on the menu, this will be the perfect addition. Anyway, thanks for joining us. I'm Susie Felton. This is Montana Rancher.